Good evening, everyone. It is October 28th, 2014. Welcome to the business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee. I'm going to have everyone rise in a moment to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and just to let you know, after the Pledge of Allegiance, we will remain standing and have a moment of silence for Pam Lamoy, who passed away. So, if everyone could please rise for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, if you could go ahead and call the roll.
Linda Avanzato. John Busgarden.
Here.
Larry Cerisi.
Here.
Cheryl Clarkin. Here. Robert Jones.
Here.
William Mudge.
Here.
Kimberly Page.
Here.
Julia Held. Student Representative. Here.
And Amy, if you could go ahead and go over the calendars too, please.
Tuesday, November 4th, Election Day, which is a professional development day, no school for students. Tuesday, November 11th, Veterans Day, schools and offices are closed. Tuesday, November 18th, School Committee Business Meeting, 7 p.m., North Kingstown High School. Monday, December 15th, joint meeting with Town Council to discuss the FY16 budget. Monday, March 2nd, deadline for the school committee budget to be presented to town manager. Monday, April 13th, 2015, budget hearing with town council.
So just to reiterate those dates for the school committee, especially for Mr. Jones and Ms. Clarkin and Mr. Cerisi and probably Mr. Blasblog, there are some meeting times there that we're going to be, or you are going to be with the town council. So make sure you mark your calendars down for the December 15th date for the joint budget, and then again for the other budget deadlines. But the December 15th one is the one that's coming up that you'll need to make sure you reserve that time in your calendar. Thank you. All right, so that brings us to presentations. And we're coming down off the stage for this time, and I invite the entire school committee down as well as our student rep if you'd like to come with us to do our presentations.
See that coming. Yeah, jeez. It's awfully sensitive. I deal with microphones a lot. That's not something that's supposed to happen. Is that? Check 1, 2. Okay. We'll try to do this in a. Well, thank you for coming tonight, everybody. This year we started, I guess restarted, an old tradition, and we honored our educational support person and teacher of the year at our opening convocation. But we felt it was important. That's not necessarily something that the community gets to see, and because we're on television tonight, we have a full complement of the school committee. We feel it's important to do this honor with our school committee as well at a session like this. I'd first like to start by honoring our North Kingstown Educational Support Professional of the Year, Ms. Linda Pacino, who is here this evening, everybody. And this is Mrs. Pacino. You really get a sense of how much impact one person can have in a school. Mrs. Pacino has been at Woodnessett for 12 years.
Like 13,
Okay.
14.
Okay. Time flies when you're having fun. And, you know, there were, I think I'm correct in this one, 13 letters on her behalf for this award. 16, all right, maybe I'm off on, okay, I'm off on that one too, sorry. But anyway, I mean, talk about impact. These are people who are parents, who are teachers, who are other people who work in the building, you know, and there's just so much love for Mrs. Pacino at Quidnesset Elementary School, and you can just get a sense that that's exactly the type of example that we would all want for all of our workers in this district. So congratulations, and I'm going to pass this to Mrs. Donnette to talk a little bit about your influence at Quidnesset.
Thank you, Dr. Hergé. Well, Mrs. Pacino really epitomizes every TA that we have in North Kingstown. She's the model that we want to look to. Mrs. Pacino is really the heart and soul of our school. She absolutely loves every child from the depths of her heart. She participates in all the PD that's offered so that she can enhance her skills, so that she can provide and promote our good educational programs for all of our students. She's the right hand to all of our teachers. She is the heart of our school community. She's at every PTO function. For example, we just had our pumpkin patch this past Friday night, and not only did Mrs. Pacino dress up, she helped set up, she helped take down, she worked in every single booth the whole evening. She made my costume. I was a scarecrow. She makes my costume every year. It was fantastic. And she was there for the students to make sure that everybody had a good time, that everybody was safe, that the evening went smoothly for the parents. So in total, she just does everything to help everybody, the parents, the students, the teachers, and me. And she does it unselfishly. She's always bringing in things for the children. This one needs that. This one needs this. This is just a little something here for somebody. And just really makes the culture come alive at Quidnesset. So we couldn't do it without her. And she does epitomize all of the TAs. They're wonderful people. They're educated. They're skilled, and they have huge hearts. So you're well deserving of this award, and congratulations, Linda.
Thank you, Louise. That's way too much. But
You okay, Roy? Sorry about that.
Thank you, Louise.
Yeah, quite an
Like I
impact.
said before, I am just honored by this honor, and I just go to work every day and do my job. That's what I do, and I do it to the best of my ability. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, one more little clap for you here.
Thank
If
you.
you could just shake some hands. And now for our second act this evening, everyone, this is Judd Sylvia, the 2014 North Kingstown Teacher of the Year. Judd also has many years in the district, about 15 years at Wickford Middle School primarily, if not completely.
Yes,
All
completely.
complete, okay. And he is a special educator at Wickford Middle School. And the accolades that have come in about Mr. Sylvia as well are just unbelievable. And I'm going to let Mr. Merkel talk a little bit about that. Very gentle.
Sure. I've had the opportunity to work with Judd for 15 years. He's held a lot of different positions, and special is kind of something you have to put in bold letters for Judd. He does a great job for all students, and I always tell this little story, and it's a great story. I was listening to two sixth graders talk, and they kind of forget that I'm around half the time. And one's saying to the other one, I'm having some problems. I'm struggling here at Wickford Middle School. And the one student, who was one of Judd's students, says to a regular ed student, go see Mr. Sylvia. And the young man says, I don't have Mr. Sylvia. I don't know Mr. Sylvia. The other kid says to him, look, trust me. Go see Mr. Sylvia. He'll help you. And Mr. Sylvia does that every single day with all the sixth graders we have down there. He's the guy that if they're having problems, if they're struggling, he will help them. He is a tremendous educator, and I'm really happy that I've had the opportunity to work with him. Mr. Sylvia.
It's a great honor just to represent the 300-plus teachers that we have in this district. It's wonderful to work at Wickford Middle School and to represent North Kingstown. I'm truly honored and overwhelmed, so thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion to buy a new corded microphone.
Second.
$5,000 I can cover it. And I'm going
If it's over
to.
2,500, we need 3 quotes.
All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. That brings us to citizens' comments, and looks like we have Colleen Pickering who has signed up, so come up to the microphone after Mr. Pickering speaks. If anyone else would like to come up, please do so.
Be careful when you touch that thing.
Good evening. First off, I'd like to thank you for putting up the fence on the softball field at Wickford Middle School. It looks great, and everyone has commented on it, and we cannot wait for March 10th when we're allowed to start playing. Hopefully, we don't hit some cars. Thank you. The other reason I signed up for the public comment is because I looked at you're going to start talking about next year's school calendar. And I'm a little concerned, I don't know which way I want to go on this, but I'm concerned when you go to one vacation where you're going to move that week in February, because as an educator, I'm worrying about the summer getting too long, because right now I know when school starts up, they forget things over the summer, and if you make the summer even longer, they're going to forget even more. So I'm concerned on that. And my other concern is we have February vacation because of germs. I make one lesson plan for a week, but in February it lasts 2 weeks because half the class is sick this week and then the other half is sick next week. And in February it takes me 2 weeks to do 1 week worth of work because of sickness. So if we keep the school open, I know during that week they kind of clean the school out and the germs get to go away and die. That's what I pray every year anyway. And the other thing is, I know in February vacation, as a taxpayer, when we close the schools down for the week in the winter, we save a lot on heat. So as a taxpayer, we will be spending a week worth of heat during the coldest time of the year. As far as that goes. The other thing that I don't know if the whole state is going to do this, because we have, I don't have to worry about this, my kids are in college now, but we have a lot of young teachers I know in our building, and they don't live in our town, and if their kids are on vacation and they're not on vacation, I don't know what's going to happen to people calling in sick in our sub-list and because of daycare and issues like that. I mean, as a parent, being home alone without any kids would be great, you know, but then it's going to hit them on the other side. So those are just some concerns I have that when you're having your discussions that I appreciate if you keep in the back of your head. As I said, I don't know which way I go on this. These are just things that started twirling in my brain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
All right, if there's no other citizens who wish to comment here this evening, we will go on to superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just to respond a little bit to Mrs. Pickering, I just want to point out that I will go into a lot of detail on that issue later in the agenda. It's not a very long agenda tonight, so hopefully that will happen pretty soon. But there is not any kind of a vote tonight on any such thing. In fact, the proposal tonight is simply to start a conversation with the community by doing a community survey. So, but I'll have a lot more detail on that later. I would like to do two things with my report. First, I want to congratulate Mr. Larry Verrier from the high school. I don't know how many of you are privy to this. Some of the elected officials here have been on this stage this past week to talk about their upcoming candidacy for elected positions in the state. And I was able to witness a lot of this. This auditorium was full of very respectful students who saw every elected position that obviously is relevant to them. So town council, school committee, all of the state offices, including the governor's race. We had, the candidates for governor right after, the day after they had debated at the Providence Performing Arts Center on Channel 12, they were in the North Kingstown High School auditorium debating over here. And so many of our students get such a tremendous education out of that, to learn about their government and what goes into that. Senator Reid was here, and so even at the national level, that level of debate was all scheduled. Everyone showed up, which was absolutely amazing. And it was just phenomenal. I don't know how we could pull it off, where it seems to me that there have got to be very few high schools that can pull something like that off, and North Kingstown High School is one of them, and it's largely because of the efforts of Mr. Verrier, his department, the administration here at the high school, and the students who were phenomenal in being the ones to introduce the candidates, advocate for them, and to host the events. It was very polished, very professional. I can't be more complimentary of the whole process. It's okay to... The other point I want to make is just something that I think people should know about. We have started the practice of having a collection of district data that I think is important for people to know about. And we often get questions about these kinds of things. And this varies from everything about, enrollment at the different schools, enrollment in the different classrooms at different schools, the per pupil expenditure that we have, the enrollment trends that we're looking at, all of, a kind of a smorgasbord of different data that I, in my job, have to kind of go to on a very regular basis. And I often would get emails, or someone from the school committee would ask, where are we with this particular number right now? How have we been doing with state testing? And everything from, the academics to the money, to the enrollment, to what's projected for the future is collected, and it is listed as a report on this agenda and will be every month for the school committee, but it is also on the front page of the district website. So anyone can just go right there and click on it. It's in a PDF file, and there's probably about 15 or 16 pages of relevant data. And it can be pretty interesting to look at, and it can help to with people with a number of questions. So I just want to list that. Also, we this weekend we also one other item I want to make sure I mention. You want to do this one? Sure. Yeah. Okay. You can see part of my superintendent's report to the assistant superintendent. I think I'm entitled to do that.
That's fine.
I just want to let everybody know, on Saturday, several of us participated in the Innovation Technology Conference. It was held downtown Providence, and many districts participated. But we had representation from several of our staff members, but we also had a booth where our students were able to showcase their work. We have a student in front of us who was part of the presentations, and it was coordinated mostly by Rich Garland, who is also here. Rich, can you give us a wave? So we want to express our appreciation to him for all the hard work in getting that team there to showcase our school.
And Ian was a superstar in the team, by the way. Way to go, Ian. That concludes my report.
All right. Mr. Jones?
Yes, and thank you. And let the committee indulge me for 60 seconds here. I just want to comment, I appreciate the superintendent highlighting the data package and data reports that are now both in the packet and on the website. Look forward with technology as we keep making those more user-friendly and interactive for the community. I would recommend that the community go and look at those and look at things like the enrollment report and look at the projections where our projections for enrollment are down 20% in the next 10 years. Now is the time that we need to be thinking about how we structure for education 5 and 10 years from now, not when we're sitting here 5 years from now with those enrollment projections. So I think it's really important that the superintendent and his staff are putting up those kinds of data so the community can engage in these kinds of conversations sooner than later. So thank you very much, Dr. O'Jay, for doing that, and I'll keep pushing, we make them more interactive.
All right, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to consent agenda. One of the items under consent agenda is our executive session minutes from October 14th, 2014. That's not what I'm looking for, I'm sorry. Do we have the 28th on here?
No.
No, that was...
It's only the 14th is on here.
Before we seal the minutes, do we have any votes to, sorry, Amy, do we have any reports or any votes to bring out of the executive session minutes for tonight? I don't think we do.
I don't believe we do.
Okay.
No, we don't know votes.
Yeah, Mr. Srisi.
Just one item from executive session that we needed to vote on in open session was the student discipline hearing. So I'd motion at this time to approve the superintendent's recommendation regarding the student hearing, which was held in executive session earlier this evening.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. This is not for discussion since this was an executive session. So I would ask for a roll call vote. Just because everybody wasn't there, that's all.
Linda Avanzato. John Piscottin.
Approve.
Larry Cerisi.
Yes.
Cheryl Clarkin.
Yes.
Robert Jones.
Yes.
Bill Mudge.
Abstain.
Kimberly Page.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Is there anything to exempt for the consent agenda? Yes, Mr. Jones.
I would exempt B7 and C1, please.
Did you
B, Bravo. I'm sorry.
B7, and what was the other one?
C1, or C, because it's...
Right, and I want to make a note that at your table here tonight for the consent agenda, under B1 are the two names that you have there for approval that we just received and was just put on the executive session, I'm sorry, for the business agenda meeting. So it's, they didn't make it into your packet, so Amy was good enough to make sure that everybody had at their seats, so you know what you were voting on under B1. All right, so I have B7 and C1. Yes, Mr. Cerisi.
Just B3.
B3.
And I'll offer a motion to approve the non-exempted consent agenda items.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Abstain.
Mr. Cerisi, since your item is first, B3.
B3, just wanted to make a quick comment on, I know, well, let me first offer a motion to approve B3.
Second.
Thank you. And just a quick comment on B3. I just wanted to recognize, we've had parents and teachers here earlier in the school year from the Susan Hetzler Quinnesset Elementary School, did a great job advocating for their school and advocating for the students, and raised some concerns about some of the needs of that school and needs of the population there. And if you look at this list of approvals here, most of these positions are to assist during the school day and mostly after the school day with all students there. And so I just wanted to recognize that put forward by the administration for a recommendation to the committee. And I don't want to say that this certainly doesn't answer the issues that have been raised or solve the issues that have been raised. That, I think there's more talks to be had and maybe some more things that we could look at possibly doing. But I didn't want this to go unnoticed of the steps that have been taken to address the issues that have been raised and let folks know that, yes, you are being heard. So, and we'll continue to work on this stuff. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no other comments, we have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of B3, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to B7. Mr. Jones.
Thank you. I would just slightly amend B7, no objection with the coaches, to just say to approve B7 at the amounts listed or at a lesser amount as determined by the superintendent if proration is appropriate.
I have no problem with that.
Second.
Thank you. And I just make that comment that I think the superintendent and the principals and the athletic director and staff have done a much better job since I know from 2 years ago when we were approving coaches all the times, and I understand these were ones that were after the season. But I just think it's appropriate that if it's, like when we approve other people midterm, their salaries are prorated or their stipends are prorated, that if it's appropriate and doesn't violate any contractual language, that the same should apply to coaches. And I think my motion gives the superintendent the discretion to do that if appropriate.
Mr. Mudge.
Yes, I support the coaches list here, but again, I'm wondering why an amount is not put in for the 2 football coaches, which I support, by the way, and where the funding's coming from, if any.
We had a discussion about this, I think.
We don't have that information.
Last fall, or
Fall in the contract, the assistant coaches get, I believe it's 85% or some percentage of the head coaches, and it all comes from general fund.
Well, why is it that we have the amounts for 2 of the coaches, but not the 2 football coaches?
I think they're
My
volunteers.
guess, and this is only a guess, would be that this is probably one of these coaches coaches the freshman football team, which is a non-funded sport, and so they fundraise to have these people, and so probably their funding is coming from the fundraisers that they've had.
What do you mean, probably?
Well, I don't know for certain. I'm just telling you, we had a discussion on sports earlier this week where we talked about some unfunded.
It's not coming from the general fund.
Right. So it's coming from the fundraisers that they have.
So
It's all accounted for.
So that, you're saying it's coming from the fundraisers that the kids have or the football team?
Right. We don't fund our freshman sports. It's the same with the freshman basketball team. We don't fund our sailing team.
So we have no control over what the guys are paying. They could get, again, I
No.
support that. They could get $10,000 for the season for all we know.
No,
But we're
no, it
unaware
does not work like that.
of what they're
It does
getting
not work
paid.
like that.
Then why isn't the number put on here again?
I don't want to speak about something that I don't, but what they do not, it is not an arbitrary amount, and it's not left up to someone.
What's the school policy say?
Excuse me?
What's the school policy say about, Is that any
I don't have an
information?
answer to that question, Mr. Mudge. We've been through this about 1,000 times, so I'm just not answering the question.
You're not going to answer the
No,
question?
I'm not.
On how somebody that's representing us, okay, is being paid? Why aren't you answering the question?
Well, I think it was answered in a couple different ways leading up to this. Ms. King said it's contractual if they're a teacher, they get a certain amount of money to coach the team. And if they're an assistant coach, it's a percentage of the head coach. And non-general funds means it's not in our budget. It means none of our business. It's not our money. It was generated from outside sources, and that's why there's no number there, because it doesn't come out of our working budget.
No, it's incredible we don't understand how we fund things today in this town. Again, we talked about it before. The fact of the matter is, it has to do with fundraising, whether it's a enterprise fund or it's not an enterprise fund, okay? And we are responsible for all funding to approve the use of the funding, period.
True, Mr.
And we
Mudge,
ought to
and a
know
year
that
ago.
by now.
A year ago, Mr. Mudge, you brought that up to this committee, and this committee tasked you and the rest of the Budget Committee of coming up with that policy. And
And we did.
We
did.
And you were supposed to bring it back to the school committee.
But we
and
certainly
have
did. The
never
recommendation,
seen
and I
it
think
in
you'll
front of
find
this
out,
school
the
committee.
recommendation was, is I...
Didn't bring anything back, Mr.
I
Mudge.
think the recommendation was that we follow, okay, the guidance
supposed to
provided
bring
by
a
the
policy
National
back
Center
to the
of
school
Educational Statistics, okay, which provides us guidance regarding the
We do have a motion on the floor.
GASB guidance. Maybe Mr. Jones will say something, because I know I made that recommendation.
You made the recommendation, and we gave you the task, and you never did anything more. Mr. Cerisi.
Simply, I said, let's follow and use the guidance, okay, that you were supposed to look at as policy chairman.
No,
okay?
the policy committee abdicated that policy to you because you were so vehement on it, Mr.
Yes,
Mudge.
and again, it was,
The certificate,
follow,
you knew more about it than
follow the
anybody else.
damn law.
And so we said, fine, you could write the policy.
Yeah.
And the rest of the school committee agreed that you were the person to write it. And you have not, to date, have not brought anything before the school
Again,
committee to vote
We never had a
on.
first read nor a second read of your policy, Mr. Mudge.
That may be so, but my recommendation was from the Budget Committee that we take and implement the guidance provided by the National Center of Education Statistics, which, addresses all of these things with regards to Gatsby funding. And you've ignored this for many years,
No, it was
Mrs.
your task,
And
Mr.
you
Mudge,
ignored it
and you have
3
not
years
followed
ago,
through on
Mrs.
your
Page.
task.
Mrs. Page, you
Yes,
were asked to
Mr.
look at that
Cerisi.
3 years ago and never brought it forward either,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
okay?
I believe we already have a motion on the floor to approve this item in a second.
Well, we want to talk about whether we're following procedures
No, we're
or not,
going to
Mr.
go to the
Cerisi?
vote. We have a motion on the
Huh?
floor and a vote.
Could I speak?
Yeah, well, would you answer my question? Why aren't we following the Gatsby regulation?
Could I speak? Thank you, Mr. Mudge. Appreciate it. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. I guess to be redundant here, we have, Mrs. King, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the salaries that are listed, we derive those from the contract that's in place, which there's a formula in that contract which will define how and how much these coaches will be paid, correct?
Yes, sir.
But we don't, because Mr. Muscardin
Mudge,
just said, Mr.
Mr. Mudge,
Muscardin just said,
Mr.
we don't
Mudge.
care about anything.
No, you don't have the floor right now. Mr. Cerisi has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mrs. King, also for clarification purposes, the ones that, the coaches or volunteers that don't have figures next to them, it's because you're not asking us to approve any expenditures from our budget.
That's my understanding, correct?
Thank you. Okay, I'm satisfied to vote.
All right, all those in favor of B7, say aye.
Aye.
All those who vote no.
I'm going to abstain.
Of course you will.
All right, that brings us to
Oh, you don't
C1.
follow
All
any
right,
laws
gentlemen,
or regulations.
Gentlemen, we're coming on to the consent agenda. C1, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Motion to approve C1, please.
Second.
Thank you. I wanted to highlight C1, kind of did not want it just to pass with consent without the community knowing, A, that there was these things about health and PE and social studies in the curriculum. And so if you're so interested, you should go look at it. And I also wanted to highlight, if you look at it, you can see the tremendous amount of work that goes into not only building the curriculum, but the amount of detail that's required to link these curriculum objectives to learning objectives, and I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Humbert, but aligning them with the Common Core standards, and sort of putting a lot of effort into assuring that, and the curriculum for two reasons. One is not only the linkage and to ensure we're doing that, but also then the follow-on assessment that needs to be done and to assure that we're assessing our learning outcomes. And it's a tremendous amount of work, and I wanted just to highlight that point. The faculty and the administration and anyone else, if I skip, who puts that together. It's a lot of work. It's important work, and so I just wanted the community to know that. The second part, though, and I don't have any objections with the curriculum per se. I think the next part, though, is translating that into how we execute the curriculum, and I'm hoping we can have some follow-on discussions at some point as we get to the program of studies and other things of how we translate that, because I think that's also important to have a discussion here and that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to bring out those 2 points.
I appreciate that, Mr. Jones, very much, and it gives me an opportunity to highlight and thank the teachers that worked on the curriculum. We had 3 teams that worked on each of these over a year, and with many revisions, a real collaborative effort. The documents are living documents. We know that they will be used, which is part of the implementation. You know, you have the written curriculum, and then you have the taught curriculum, and it's important. And so we have criteria we've established for these framework documents, and they really did work hard on them. And then once they were completed, we also convened a curriculum team that included, well, basically was all teachers and teacher leaders in particular in curriculum. And then they recommended revisions, and the educators went back and made further revisions, and that's the documents that you see before you. So I'm really proud of these documents, and I thank you for for highlighting them. Appreciate that very much. Next on our agenda is the elementary social studies. We'll be convening those teams, and we are studying now this year the science, because they're going to be aligned to the NGSS, which is the New Generation State Standards. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Is there any other comments? Mrs. Clarkin.
Just one question. In reviewing these, I see that they affect different grade levels. Dr. Humbert, do we post this curriculum on the websites of the individual schools so that the parents have access to this information?
We do once it's approved by a school committee. So these will go on tomorrow, on my website tomorrow.
Great.
All right, so we have a motion on the table in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us, that's the end of the consent agenda, so that brings us down to, there's no unfinished business, to new business.
What? No, I got some unfinished business.
We don't have any unfinished business on the calendar, on the agenda.
Well, we can't bring some unfinished business up?
No, we have to advertise.
Excuse me?
We have to advertise.
That's not really correct.
Yes, it is.
Who can put on unfinished business?
It's the law. We have to follow the law. And we don't have anything under unfinished business, so that brings us to new business.
Thank you. As I promised, this next item is concerning the 2015-16 school calendar. As you know, or I'm not sure that everyone in the audience will know. I think members of the school committee know. But every year, our school calendar is something that is proposed statewide, and it emanates from the Superintendent's Association. And it's kept rather consistent, and most districts in the state take similar vacation weeks. And obviously, districts do a little bit of some different things with that calendar. Some will, for instance, start before Labor Day. Some communities insist on starting after Labor Day. and a lot of decisions about particular holidays that take off and so on and so forth. Recently, the Superintendent's Association have gotten enough steam behind the idea that they have their proposal for the school calendar. I believe this past year, we missed the date to respond to this last year's proposal, but for the upcoming year as well, for 2015-16, is that they propose one vacation week in the spring, or winter spring, instead of two. So instead of having what we're used to, a February and an April break, that this calendar that is proposed by the Superintendent's Association advocates for 1 week break, and that would take place in April. What would happen in February, if we were to do that, is we would take our professional day, which usually comes around the end of January, and put it next to the President's Day weekend. What that would do is would allow for students to have a 4-day weekend in February, and teachers would still have, and everyone else in the district would have a 3-day weekend, holiday weekend with the President's Day at that point. And that would save the district 4 days, meaning the result of that would be it would be easier for the district to close school in early to mid-June. As you know, in past 4 or 5 years, when I started as superintendent, I was dealing with hurricanes right off the beginning of the year, and we came upon a number of years where there were a number of snow dates, local emergencies, hurricanes, and we would creep right into that last week of June. And school calendars cannot go beyond July 1st. So we're up against the idea of having a decision in the spring to say modifying the April vacation kind of on the run, which is not what anybody would like to do. So this idea was put forward. I know for sure that the Cumberland School District has already done this, and they seem to like it, according to Superintendent Phil Thornton. And I know a number of other districts. I'm not sure who else has gone to this yet. I will have this by the time there is a vote for the school committee. But I know that other districts are at least talking about it, and it seems to be an idea that's gaining steam around Rhode Island. So what I am proposing is that a survey be sent to the community, both parents and staff, to gauge their interest in having this kind of calendar. And I would keep the survey very simple. In the past, I've been a part of calendar committees, and you would not believe how many ideas come out of the woodwork that could bog this committee down for months about, should we start before Labor Day, after Labor Day, should this day be a holiday, should that day be a holiday, so on and so forth. And so I want to keep it simple. The question for this particular calendar and this particular survey would simply be, please indicate which option you would like to see for 2015-16, a school calendar without the February vacation or a school calendar with the February vacation. That is what I'm proposing to the committee, to go to the community and to have that information back to you in the next few weeks, have a larger discussion. At that time, you would know more about what other districts in the state are doing, and have a full complement of community information in front of you to make a decision, because this time of year we usually set aside some time to approve the following year's calendar.
So questions about the proposal. Mr. Cerisi.
Not so much a question, just a comment. I thank Dr. Roger for taking this initiative, and I particularly like the idea that before we have any proposals put before us, or recommendations put before us, to approve that we have a survey going out to the parents and the staff as well, because any changes obviously will impact everyone. Additionally, the points that Ms. Pickering made earlier this evening during public comment were all great points, most if not all of which I did not think of or consider, so I thank you for raising those points, because they definitely give us some additional things to think about when we start reviewing the impact that any changes will have on the district. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Roger.
Jones?
Thank you. I was going to echo what Ms. Tracy said. I guess I would ask Mrs. King, though, on one point, I know our students aren't in the building, but obviously with winter sports, the high school's open. I assume gyms are being used at the elementary school. I don't know if we can selectively turn off heat to different parts of buildings, but I assume that with the schools being open, we're still heating them.
You would have to anyway, just because it's winter time, so you'd have to have marginal heat even if we didn't have anybody else in the building. So, yeah, we would be.
And the other point I would make, obviously we'll have to see how this plays out. I think Ms. Pickering raises a good point, but I think it's also could be a catalyst. I think the issue of whether it's 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, that gap that our students are getting a break and doing other things. I think in the 21st century and the things that were highlighted in the NEASC report and other things, learning, if we want to make lifelong learners, we need to have students think of learning as a not something that just occurs from 7:15 to 4 o'clock, depending on which school you're at, and doesn't just occur in these, within the confines of a building or within a little homework packet you get. Learning needs to be something that's inculcated to be multiple opportunities, and taking advantage of technology or other things to make learning extend over the summer is, I think, an area we need to keep pushing. And hopefully, if we do end up having a longer school vacation or summer break, that might just give us more impetus to push that kind of learning over the summer. Thank you.
Well, one of the things I thought I liked about the agenda was, or not the agenda, but the survey was that you asked as to if people were a community member, if they were a parent, if they were staff. And so I think that could also help us differentiate just as to what are the different issues that people are bringing up, because there will be very different issues depending on what your perspective is. So I will be eager, or maybe I won't be seeing the results of the survey, but it will be interesting to see just how people vote in the end. So I think that'll be a good idea. Are there any other, this isn't for a voting matter, but
Approve the survey.
Right, yeah, I guess it is for information, and it is to approve the survey, so.
I'd offer a motion to approve the survey being sent out.
Second?
Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. And I believe, everyone, that brings us to the end of our agenda.
No, we have some reports that we need to talk about.
No, we don't normally talk about these in session. But,
We have reports. Is there a report over here on enrollment data package that Mr. Jones just talked about? In other words, we
there's a motion to
can't.
adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. There's a
Well, what
second.
an unethical bunch of people, I'll tell you.
Mr., it has nothing to do
Unethical.
with ethics. Mr.
Does
Mudge,
it
you
do with
know
ethics?
that our agenda is such that reports.
How
were
about
just
correspondence?
that.
I have some
They're just
correspondence that I also would like to provide.
And you may read the correspondence, but it is not for discussion. So.
Okay, I'll
there's a
read the
motion on
correspondence from the
table,
town manager.
and
I would.
there is
You're going
a-
to give me an opportunity to read this correspondence from the town manager regarding the
No,
contract
Mr.
for the boilers at Fishing.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. No, not into the mic, Mr. Mudge. If you would like to stay here after the rest of us are gone and read it for the people who are here, you're more than welcome. It's not a matter of ethics, Mr. Mudge. It's a matter of procedure, and you are forgetting the procedure. So we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say yes. Yes. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.